Republicans have been on a warpath against the U.S. Postal Service. Why? Mainly for two reasons. It's a government organization, and every government organization except the military must be destroyed and just blown up to smithereens. Postal Service, goddamn government, big government. What do? They deliver mail to you anywhere in the country for 44 frickin' cents. Okay, you don't want to use the Post Service? Go pay 20 bucks to FedEx. Go pay 20 bucks to UPS. Have at it, Hoss. No, you want to send a simple letter to your grandma, right? No. Don't you. If you're a Republican and criticize the post office, then don't use them. Pay 20 bucks instead. If you want to be that stupid, then actually go for it. Go full stupid. There's another word for that. Okay. But they recommend you don't do that. All right, if you're following my movie references. Now, one of the ways that they have gone after the Postal Office, Post Service, is that they said, oh, you know what? You got to fund your pension for 75 years. Now, you have to understand something about the Post Office. They actually don't get government money. Isn't that amazing? They say, government, but they actually don't get government money. They're not funded by the government. But they have more onerous rules that they have to follow, regulations they have to follow from the government. The Republicans took advantage of that. This is the one instance where they're in favor of more regulation. So they load up the post office with regulations that don't apply to anyone else. They say normally your pension fund could be funded up to 10 years, 25 years. No, for the post office, and only for them, it has to be funded up to 75 years in advance. So that puts this giant financial burden on the post office right now. And because of that, they might go bankrupt. Now, could it be that the Republicans get campaign donations from competitors of the post office, like the other delivery services? Could that be part of their agenda? But either way, they mean to destroy this thing. So now here comes Elizabeth Warren to save the day. Now, how's she going to do it? God, this is super interesting. Honestly, it's an idea I wouldn't have begun to had. And look, I fancy myself an expert on this stuff, and I think about it all the time. It never occurred to me. It's a fascinating idea. So she says, why doesn't the post office get into the business of providing loans to people who have checks but don't have bank accounts? Like if you're like most Americans, you get a paycheck, it goes maybe direct deposit into your account, or you get a check, you go to your bank, you deposit, and then you get the money. But a lot of Americans don't have access to a bank. They have to go and do payday loans. They give what their check is going to be, or sometimes they give their check and get some less amount back. Sometimes they borrow off of it, and they get charged an incredible amount of money. In fact, let me tell you about that. So first of all, Americans without bank accounts spent on interest and fees in 2012 $89 billion. That's not what they got. That's just the interest and fees they had to pay on top, okay? And that affects usually the poorest Americans. They're working, they got a paycheck, okay? But they got to pay an extra $89 billion that the rich and the middle class don't have to pay if they have bank accounts. So now let's go to another stat. It's the amount that payday loans with annual interest rates over 100%. Some of the interest rates are often over 100%. The amount that they take out of poor communities every year, $3.4 billion at the very least. Well, of course, can you imagine if you charged 100%? Now, if you went, you know what Wall Street's charged? It's less charged by the Fed when they go to borrow money, way less than 1%, less than 1%. Can you imagine if the Fed said, yeah, we changed our mind, Wall Street, the top banks in the country, we're going to now do like you do to the poor. We're going to charge you 100%. The banks their heads would explode. If you went to 2%, their heads would explode. But for the poorest people who can afford it the least, over 100%, okay? So they take $3.4 billion out of those communities. Now, at the very least, average amount that the customers pay to borrow $375 from payday loans. $520. Now, you're not reading that wrong. That's an unbelievable number. So the average customer pays $520 to borrow $375. That's a crime, man. That's a crime. Okay, so now, average amount an unbanked household, people who don't have bank accounts, spend to access money through payday lending stores. $2,400 or 10% of their income. So that's an extra 10% basically in taxes that someone takes out, but it doesn't go to the government, it doesn't go to your fire department or your local teacher or the cops or anyone that actually helps the community. It just goes to a banker. 10% of your income, boom, they take that. So here's an interesting idea, she says. The post offices are in these communities that are unbanked, they're everywhere, And they can do this, and they don't have to charge 100%. They could charge a reasonable rate. And actually, they would still make a lot of money. That way, you help the community, and you help the post office get solvent. 2 more facts in regards to that. Roughly 6 in 10 post offices nationwide are in what USPS report calls bank deserts, zip codes with either 1 or 0 bank branches. So they're going and giving people an option where they didn't have one before. Either they had no options for banks or only one, which is in effect in that community a monopoly. So they're providing a second option. You still want to pay 120%? Go ahead and pay it. But the post office is going to charge you a hell of a lot less. My guess is a lot of Americans would then love the post office, right? Of course, the Republicans hate this plan. They couldn't hate it anymore because it helps the government to do a service for its citizens, which the Republicans despise as an idea, which is the whole point of the government, and it takes money away from their beloved banks who have been robbing those communities year in and year out. Finally, the amount that the USPS would make if they did this business practice and they did it ethically, they'd make about $9 billion a year. So then they wouldn't have any issue with solvency at all. In fact, maybe they could bring down the stamp prices from 44 cents to something less because they'd have plenty of money. Instead, like I said in the first stat, the banks and interest and fees are getting $89 billion. Can you imagine if we save $80 billion and the post office? Now, who can argue against this if your real point was to help Americans? If you actually were a representative of the people? I guarantee you nearly every Republican, if not every single one of them, will be against this, and I guarantee you a lot of Democrats will say, well, you know, Elizabeth Warren, she's on the far left, and it's a radical idea. To help the American people and not help our banker friends who all bankroll our campaigns? Radical left-wing idea. The reality is it's a perfectly sensible idea. It's a great idea. It would help the American people. I hope they do it, but Washington, D.C. is usually where good ideas go to die.